Welcome to Vibe Audiobook. In just a few minutes, you will get the key ideas and the most valuable practical knowledge, also the most valuable insight in today's book. If you like to grow faster and smarter, you are in the right place. So let's get started.
Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling an unsettling sense of discomfort, even though everything seemed perfectly normal on the surface? Pause. Have you ever made a choice only to realize later that you were subtly nudged into it by someone else? The human mind is constantly transmitting signals, sending out an invisible stream of data through body language, tone of voice, and micro-expressions. Most of the time, we miss these cues entirely. But there are individuals who study these patterns deeply, not just to understand human behavior, but to guide it, alter it, and sometimes exploit it. Welcome to this comprehensive summary of how to analyze people with dark psychology by Jacob Anderson. This guide explores the unspoken rules of human interaction, breaking down how persuasion, body language, and mind control operate in the real world. Anderson's goal is not to hand you a tool for harm, but to pull back the curtain on these hidden dynamics so you can read people accurately and protect your own mind from hidden manipulation. Because this book covers a vast amount of psychological groundwork, we will break this guide into two distinct parts. In this first part, we will analyze the foundation of dark psychology, how to decode hidden body language, and the core tactics of psychological influence. Let us begin with the first major idea. Part 1, Decoding the Foundations in Body Language Lesson 1. The spectrum of dark psychology and the dark triad. To understand how people are influenced, we must first look at the darker side of human personality traits. Pause. The author introduces a concept well known in psychological circles, the dark triad. This is a cluster of three distinct malevolent personality traits that often drive manipulative behavior: Narcissism, Machiavellianism, and Psychopathy. Narcissism is characterized by grandiosity, a lack of empathy, and an intense need for admiration. A narcissistic individual views others primarily as tools to validate their own self-worth. Machiavellianism involves a deeply cynical worldview. Individuals high in this trait believe that the end always justifies the means. They are calculating, emotionally detached, and highly skilled at strategic deception. Psychopathy is marked by a lack of remorse, poor impulse control, and inability to experience deep emotional connections. In everyday life, you rarely encounter cartoonish villains. Instead, you encounter individuals who carry varying degrees of these three traits. They might be a charismatic co-worker, a charming neighbor, or a demanding supervisor. Pause. The author emphasizes that dark psychology exists on a spectrum. While some people use these tactics intentionally to cause harm, others use them unconsciously as defense mechanisms or survival strategies developed early in life. By understanding that these traits exist, you stop taking manipulative behavior personally. You begin to see it as a structural pattern of the other person's mind, allowing you to remain emotionally detached and analytical. Lesson 2. Reading the body without words. We communicate far more with our physical movements than we ever do with our spoken words. When someone is trying to mislead you, their words are heavily filtered and chosen with care. However, their physical body often betrays their true thoughts because nonverbal communication is controlled by the limbic system, the emotional, involuntary part of the brain. To read someone accurately, the author suggests focusing on three primary areas. The baseline. Before you can tell if someone is lying or uncomfortable, you must observe how they act under normal, stress-free conditions. Notice how they blink, where they place their hands, and their usual posture when they're relaxed. This is their baseline. Any sudden departure from this baseline during a specific topic is a potential red flag. The feet and legs. Most people focus entirely on controlling their facial expressions when trying to hide something. Because of this, the lower half of the body is often the most honest. If someone's torso and face are turned toward you, but their feet are pointed toward the exit, their mind is already looking for an escape. Pause. Crossed legs that shield the body can signal defensiveness, while open postures suggest comfort. Proxemics in space. How a person manages a physical distance between themselves and others speaks volumes about their confidence and intentions. Manipulative individuals often invade personal space intentionally to create a sense of dominance or to make the other person feel vulnerable and compliant. When analyzing body language, remember that a single gesture means very little. A person rubbing their neck might simply have a sore muscle. Real analysis requires looking for clusters of behavior, 3 or more matching nonverbal signals occurring at the same time. Lesson 3. The power of eye contact and facial expressions. The human face has dozens of muscles capable of creating thousands of distinct expressions, many of which last for only a fraction of a second. These are known as microexpressions. One of the most heavily manipulated tools in human interaction is eye contact. Pause. We are taught from a young age that honest people look you in the eye, while liars look away. Because malicious actors know this rule, they often invert it. A highly manipulative person will often hold prolonged, unblinking eye contact to simulate sincerity, project dominance, or intentionally unnerve you. The author breaks down specific facial cues to watch for. The inauthentic smile. A genuine smile, known scientifically as a Duchenne smile, involves the muscles around the eyes, creating tiny wrinkles or crow's feet. A forced or manipulative smile only involves the muscles around the mouth. If someone's mouth is smiling but their eyes remain cold and static, the emotion is manufactured. Asymmetry. Genuine emotions usually express themselves symmetrically across the face. If an expression of contempt, anger, or sadness appears significantly stronger on one side of the face than the other, it is highly likely that the emotion is being faked or exaggerated for effect. The direction of the gaze. While older psychological theories claim that looking in a specific direction definitively indicated lying, modern dark psychology looks at changes in cognitive load. If someone suddenly looks away or closes their eyes when asked a simple question, it means their brain is working extra hard to process information, potentially constructing a cover story rather than retrieving a memory. Lesson 4. Microregulations and vocal profiling. Beyond what we can see, there is what we can hear and feel in the rhythm of a conversation. The tone, speed, and pitch of a person's voice often reveal their underlying psychological state far better than the literal meaning of their sentences. When a person experiences stress or attempts to apply subliminal pressure, their vocal cords naturally tighten. This causes a subtle rise in pitch. Pause. Conversely, an individual practiced in covert persuasion will consciously lower their vocal pitch and slow their cadence. This is done to mimic the vocal patterns of a trusted authority figure, a protective parent, or a calm guide, lowering your natural psychological defenses. Pay close attention to these vocal shifts. Speech rate. A sudden increase in speech speed can indicate anxiety, fear, or an eagerness to gloss over an uncomfortable detail in a conversation. The strategic pause. Master manipulators use silence as a weapon. By leaving an uncomfortable silence at the end of the sentence, they create a void that you feel compelled to fill. In doing so, you often volunteer more information than you intended, compromising your position. Defensive verbal fillers. When caught off guard, an individual trying to control a narrative will use repetitive phrases or over-explain simple facts. They might use qualifiers like "to be completely honest" or "traditionally speaking" to buy their analytical mind time to formulate an optimal response. This concludes the foundational concepts of understanding human behavior, observation, and decoding nonverbal communication. In the upcoming second part of this audiobook summary, we will dive deeper into the active tactics of dark psychology, how manipulation works in practice, the mechanics of Neuro-Linguistic programming, NLP, and the specific step-by-step frameworks you can use to shield yourself from mind control. Part 2, Active Manipulation, NLP, and Defense Strategies, Lesson 5, the mechanics of covert manipulation. Manipulation is rarely loud or obvious. The most effective forms of psychological manipulation operate under the radar, making the target believe they are acting on their own free will. The author highlights several classic maneuvers used by dark psychologists to erode an individual's confidence and control their choices. Gaslighting. This is a systematic attempt to make a person question their own memory, perception, or sanity. A manipulator will flatly deny events occurred, twist past conversations, or accuse the victim of being overly sensitive. Over time, the target stops trusting their own judgment and relies entirely on the manipulator's version of reality. The scarcity principle and manufactured urgency. By creating a false sense of limited time or availability, a manipulator forces your brain into a state of mild panic. When you feel an option is slipping away, your logical mind shuts down and your emotional mind takes over, rushing into a decision you wouldn't normally make. Guilt tripping and emotional debt. This tactic relies on the human instinct of reciprocity. A manipulator will do you an unasked-for favor or highlight their own sacrifices to place an unspoken emotional debt upon you. Pause. Once you feel obligated, they demand a much larger concession in return, using your own sense of fairness against you. To spot these mechanics, you must shift your focus away from the manipulator's explanations and look strictly at the pattern of outcomes. If a relationship consistently leaves you feeling confused, guilty, or doubting your own memory, you are likely dealing with active manipulation. Lesson 6. Neuro-Linguistic Programming, NLP, and Covert Persuasion. Neuro-Linguistic Programming, or NLP, is a framework centered on how the structure of language influences our neurological patterns. While legitimate practitioners use it for self-improvement and therapy, dark psychology weaponizes these techniques to bypass an individual's critical thinking faculties. The author details several key NLP concepts frequently misused for covert influence. Anchoring. This involves associating a specific emotional state with an external trigger, such as a touch, a gesture, or a unique word. For instance, a manipulator might touch your shoulder every time you are laughing and happy. Later, when you are feeling hesitant or doubtful, they will touch that exact spot to artificially induce a feeling of comfort and compliance. Pacing and leading. To influence someone, you must first match their current state. A covert persuader will mimic your breathing rhythm, speech rate, and posture, pacing, until a deep psychological rapport is established. Once your defenses are down, they will subtly change your behavior or direction leading, and your mind will naturally follow their tempo. Embedded commands. This is a practice of hiding a direct directive within a larger, seemingly casual sentence. By changing their vocal inflection, pausing slightly before the command, or shifting their body language during that specific phrase, the manipulator ensures that your subconscious mind registers the instruction while your conscious mind schemes right past it. Lesson 7. Subliminal Mind Control and Hypnotic Language Patterns. Subliminal mind control does not involve flashing hidden messages on a screen. In the context of everyday interactions, it refers to conversational hypnosis, the art of using specific language structures to lull the conscious mind to sleep while whispering directly to the subconscious. The author unpacks how these linguistic traps are structured. Presuppositions. These are language patterns that assume a specific outcome has already been agreed upon. Instead of asking, "Would you like to sign this contract?" a master persuasion will ask, "Will you be using your black pen or blue pen to sign this contract?" By forcing your mind to choose between two trivial options, they prevent you from questioning the core decision itself. The illusion of choice. Similar presuppositions, this technique offers options that all lead to the same destination. It makes the target feel completely in control of the situation, masking the reality that the framework itself has been entirely rigged by the manipulator. Double binds. These are highly restrictive statements disguised as open-ended questions. Pause. A double bind places a target in a situation where no matter what choice they make, they fulfill the manipulator's hidden agenda. Recognizing these patterns requires practicing linguistic awareness. When someone presents a choice, take a step back and ask yourself, are these truly the only options available to me? Lesson 8. Building the Psychological Shield. Understanding dark psychology is only half the battle. The ultimate goal is to build an unshakable psychological armor that protects your mental sovereignty. The author concludes the core text by providing a step-by-step framework for personal defense. Establish rigid emotional boundaries. Manipulators thrive on access. They test your boundaries with minor infractions to see how much you will tolerate. By establishing firm, non-negotiable boundaries early on and enforcing them calmly without over-explaining, you signal that you are a high-effort, low-reward target. Develop emotional detachment. The primary fuel of manipulation is your emotional reaction, whether it's anger, fear, guilt, or flattery. When you sense someone trying to pull your emotional levers, consciously invoke what psychologists call the gray rock method. Become uninteresting, unresponsive, and emotionally neutral. When a manipulator realizes they cannot extract an emotional response from you, they lose interest and move on. Trust your intuition. Your subconscious mind processes millions of pieces of information every second, far more than your conscious mind can catalog. Pause. When you experience a visceral feeling that something is off about an individual, even if their words are perfect, respect that signal. It is your evolutionary defense mechanism alerting you to a mismatch between their verbal baseline and their hidden physical microexpressions. Conclusion. How to Analyze People with Dark Psychology by Jacob Anderson serves as a sobering reminder that human communication is a multi-layered landscape. While words can be easily manufactured to deceive, the underlying truth is always present in a person's microexpressions, behavioral shifts, and linguistic patterns. By understanding the traits of the dark triad, learning to read nonverbal clusters, recognizing the hidden structures of NLP, and maintaining ironclad personal boundaries, you shift your position from a vulnerable observer to an empowered, conscious participant in human dynamics. The ultimate power of this knowledge lies not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself and ensuring your thoughts, choices, and actions remain entirely your own. Thank you for listening to this comprehensive summary. May your interactions remain clear, your boundaries secure, and your mind independent.
Thanks for listening. If you like this kind of audiobook summary, then you can subscribe our channel and hit the bell icon to get the notification. See you in the next video. Bye.